Welcome to Real Estate AI Flash, the podcast that helps agents, teams, and leaders understand how AI is changing real estate and the strategies you can use to win. I'm your host, Rajeev Sajja. In today's episode, we explore how AI is starting to transform commercial real estate. I'm joined by Jake Heller, co-founder of AI for CRE Collective and an entrepreneur working across development, land acquisition, and deal analysis in Los Angeles. We talk about how AI is helping commercial professionals analyze deals faster, automate repetitive workflows, and build systems that could give them a competitive edge. Let's dig in with Jake. Well, welcome to another episode, folks, of Real Estate AI Flash. And today, he may be our first guest that's focusing on commercial real estate. So I was really excited to get Jake Heller on the podcast. He's the co-founder of AI Collective and with Westmont Partners based out of Los Angeles, California. Jake, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. I think we connected on LinkedIn or something. I don't know how we got connected. I reached out to you maybe through LinkedIn. I saw some of your posts. And I said, I need to get somebody that's really doing some cool stuff with AI on commercials. So here we are. But before we dig in on all things AI, I'd love for the listening audience to kind of get to know you. How did you get into real estate and bring us to today?
Sure. Well, I'm third generation from a home building family, actually. We were production builders in 3 states, California, Nevada, and Arizona. Started in the late 80s, built several thousand houses, became a pretty big outfit. But during the GFC, tough time, and never really picked up production home building again. We, as a family, were building assets, all different types of asset types, retail, apartments. And we now operate as a family office in a way. I've never worked directly for the family office, always in parallel to. Fortunately, I've been able to throw a bunch of shit at the wall and see what sticks. And I've been pretty entrepreneurial. So I've started an entitlements and permit expediting business. We've facilitated over 6,000 units throughout Southern California. Company does about 7 figures in revenue today. I've also built a handful of apartment buildings myself here in Los Angeles, in Silver Lake. I've done a bit of construction work as well. And most recently, we have been focused on delivering lots to home builders. So I've kind of come full circle back to the home building space, not actually building homes, but delivering lots for home builders to build those homes. But we also started the AI for CRE Collective. That happened entirely by accident. Last year with my partner, we were discussing just how quickly this stuff was moving, and it's so hard to keep up with and exhausting. And we thought by bringing together a bunch of people, then maybe we could learn different ideas and what's out there, and we can incorporate it into our business. And so we did that. It ended up spreading like wildfire. I mean, so many people caught on quickly and they were really interested in the concept, and the whole kind of entrepreneur light bulb switched on, and got to thinking maybe there's much more to the story here. And so fast forward to today, we are what we consider the largest AI education platform specifically for commercial real estate. We have over 630 monthly paying subscribers. We'll be well into the thousands this year. We only got started about 6 or so months ago. And it's been really great. There's so many different people in all different parts of the industry, brokers, developers, investors alike. And we share ideas, workflows, automations, and just talk about the latest and greatest.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great segue into what we're going to talk about. I mean, I think it's interesting. Even I feel very fortunate every week to talk to smart people like yourself. Right, I'm at like the corner of like discovering new things. You're doing some cool stuff, and I think this industry is moving, especially AI layered onto real estate, is moving so quickly that the more you can surround yourself with your tribe of learning, to your point, your community, I think you're just going to be much further ahead. And as you know, I mean, realtors are amazing human connectors, but have very little time to embrace tech, even though it could save them time. So I think what you're doing with the collective, I'm sure we'll dig into it a little bit more, is awesome, because I haven't seen a commercial collective as much as I've seen a lot of the residential real estate side of things, masterminds and stuff like that. So, so that's good stuff. So Jake, what was your first, like, before we get into the CRE and all the things there, what was your first like light bulb moment with AI?
I mean, look, I was always really into video games, and I felt like when ChatGPT first came around, it was like playing video games. In fact, today it's just so much fun for me.
Yeah.
And to that point, like I'm honestly a little concerned about like AI addiction in the future. That's a totally separate topic. We're not going to go down that route, but like this stuff is really, really addicting. But when ChatGPT first came around, I was a power user. I mean, no doubt about it. I saw really quickly just its capabilities and what it could do. And I think in commercial real estate or even real estate in general, it's not the most complicated business by any means. It really isn't. You know, we're not launching rockets into outer space and catching them like Elon Musk by any means. We're analyzing documents. We're putting together leases. We're renting apartments. We're underwriting deals. Like these are all things that at the time I thought could be automated and will be automated. And we're starting to see that in real time. So I was just a firm believer from the beginning that what we are looking at is the most transformative technology in all of human history. I really believe that. And it's intersecting with one of the largest industries, commercial real estate. It's the most exciting time to be alive, in my opinion. But like I said, it's also really exhausting and it's hard to keep up with. So we're trying to do the heavy lifting and just make it a little bit easier for everybody.
Yeah, 100%. You know, look, when I started this podcast, which is crazy, I mean, I dug in just like you early, like November 2022. And I started this podcast Jan 2024. So we're like in episode 115-ish plus now. And just looking at just the last year and a half, the speed at change, and very few people are keeping up. I mean, the goal is not to keep up. The goal is to figure out how you can leverage this transformative tech, to your point. And my role, I've completely moved to a full 100% AI role now, based on all the things I've learned and I've implemented. And I think I've seen a slide recently. There was a Matt Schumer article, I'm sure you read it, right? Something big is happening that got like 80 million views on X. And I believe this is people that are professionals, even agents. I think this is a very important year in your career of how you, I don't think you're going to go away. I think the people that are AI fluent, commercial, residential alike, will be able to do so much more, so much better, so much faster if you sort of leverage some of this tech. So we'll get into it. So what was your, I know you said you set up, the CRE Collective was not planned, and some of the best ideas are not planned. They just sort of, True. You know, you get the light bulb moment somewhere, you know, this is something that is a pain point I want to solve. So how did you sort of come to that point? And then we'll get into 3 or 4 use cases you're seeing commercial agents really leverage. Yeah,
I mean, look, we had like 100 people sign up on day one for the community. So to your point, though, yeah, some of the most interesting ideas in businesses happen when they're not exactly planned that way. So we're grateful, and we're full systems go on this thing. We're just getting started, really. And I think to the whole broader concept of AI, we haven't even scratched the surface of any of this stuff. Nobody has any clue what's going on. To your point about that article, yes, I read it. Definitely eye-opening. I have a whole lot of theories about this stuff. We can get into that a little bit later. But look, AI in real estate, there's things it's very good at, and there's things it's not very good at. And I did a presentation last week to several hundred people on this, and we got a little bit granular with it. But I guess starting with some pretty basic things that AI is good at: document analysis and extracting information. It's getting pretty darn good. I think with the context windows of some of these tools, when you're dropping in, 200, 300 page leases, it's not perfect, not there yet. But there are like specific commercial real estate AI tools which focus on like document extraction, and the accuracy from those are pretty darn good. So to that point, offering memorandums, rent rolls, T12s, extracting that information, putting it into an Excel doc, that's low hanging fruit. You're picking money up off the floor if you could do that really easily. I think image generation and deck generation is another interesting area which AI is getting really, really good at. Google has a product, Nano Banana, weird kind of funky name. They actually just came out with the second version of it, but you'd be amazed at what the image generating could do nowadays. Whether it's showing before and after concepts through renovation strategies, or if your wife wants to renovate the kitchen and you kind of want to see concepts with that, it's like unbelievable. And then on the deck generating side as well, investor decks, offering memorandums, flyers, you name it. It's getting really good at that. I think underwriting, back to the napkin calculations, they now have Claude and ChatGPT in Excel, which is quite remarkable. That was sort of the eye-opening moment for me, by the way, when I first saw that happen, where like these AIs could build like sophisticated institutional quality pro formas and analyses. I was like, okay, like this is not a fad. We are not in a bubble. Like this is transformative.
Fun fact. I mean, I'm a big Gemini fan as well. I mean, Nano Banana, the whole thing, and just to build on the Google piece, Notebook LM is gotten real good with slide decks and infographics as well. I mean, just to your point. So I don't know if you know this, but you mentioned what a weird name Nano Banana was. If you read up the story, I just found out about it. There was a Google developer, Jake, 2:30 a.m., I suppose, early California time, which is like 5:30 here, East Coast. They were checking in the code for Nano Banana as an image model. This is version 1 now, when they first actually launched this. And they had to give it a name. This girl was working on it. Smart engineer, obviously. Her name was Naina, Naina. And then people used to call her, like, she was apparently short, so they said, banana. They had a nickname. So she went with Nano Banana. And Google had a whole name plan for it, but it went so viral as soon as it launched. Here we are, Nano Banana 2 at the time of this recording. And it has sustained itself from a branding perspective. Crazy stuff, So
that is, I didn't know that. So thanks for sharing.
No, it's just fun fact that just occupies our brain for a little while. It doesn't do anything. But so let's talk a little bit about, so you mentioned a few tools, few outcomes, decks, content, document scanning, etc. What are some of the top AI tools? If I'm listening to this podcast as a commercial agent, there's some general productivity stuff across the board, whether you're residential or commercial, you're going to get it. What are some specific strategies that you suggest commercial agents kind of dig into a little bit more? Because as you know, there's some tools that are good for certain things. Not everything is good for everything. So just kind of guide the commercial agents listening to this pod.
Yeah. So I actually have a theory that these general purpose large language models like ChatGPT and Claude are going to be the all of everything. And so there's a lot of tools, to your point, that are out there, commercial real estate specific tools, general just residential tools. And for the time being, some of them are okay. But as we're seeing with Claude and Chat, they are just getting so unbelievably good. Okay.
Yeah.
And so my theory is that we are heading towards this world where there is no more user interfaces. There's no more software that you get onboarded to or another tool that you need to learn. And instead, all of these tools and all of the data and such that come from them will get routed through these large language models like Claude and ChatGPT. And you're just speaking in natural language to those tools. So
yeah,
I could totally be wrong. But I do have a database of, these are commercial real estate specific AI tools, what I consider the largest of its kind. We have over 640 something. And my goal is to demo each and every single one of them. Some of them are good. Some of them are great. Some of them are terrible. There's only a handful that are really awesome. And so I think when people ask me like, hey, what's a good tool for this? I'll generally resort to Claude. Claude is my go-to. I use it for everything. Its capabilities are unbelievable. The only time you should spend time, money, or your resources on a tool that is not Claude or one of these large language models is if it legitimately can grow your business. And I don't just mean save you time or make your life more convenient. Those days are over. I mean hand delivering you revenue, hand delivering you new listings, new deals, whatever it might be. because at some point in time with the rate of advancement, Claude or Chat or one of these general purpose tools like Gemini, they're going to be able to do what these tools do. And so if you're spending your time, resources, and energy in that direction, I'm just not sure it's the highest ROI thing you could be doing at the moment versus like understanding how to get the most out of some of these more general purpose tools.
100%. I jumped onto Chat early on, ChatGPT, and I created like custom GPTs. And I think ChatGPT at the time of this recording, I have to say this every single time at the time of this recording, because by the time it's released, something new comes up, as you very well know. So outside of the custom GPTs that you can offer other people easily through a GPT store, which ChatGPT has, I've migrated everything to Claude myself. I think that's my go-to. And if you're listening to this and you're technical in nature, I mean, we're not going to do a technical episode, but you should look into Claude Code. And for everybody else, Claude Cowork is a absolute game changer. They recently released scheduled tasks, so you can literally have it be schedule a task to go into the MLS and pull all of the stuff you need, digest the information, and give it to you. So in my current role, Jake, fun story. I started because it's moving so fast, and I'm trying to educate our leadership team on things we should care about on AI. There's a lot of signal, but too much noise, as you very well know, Jake. So I built a very simple Claude project, similar to ChatGPT projects, that knows our tech stack that we have and gives me exactly a newsletter style format, because I've given it all my preferences. And it built it in less than 15 minutes into the format I need. And all I got to do is Thursday night run a specific prompt for go back 7 days, give me the top stories in a certain format with the right sources, links. Literally, if you're looking to build a really quality newsletter for your audience, you have the tools, right? And that is really personalized. I think searching for content, I mean, I want to defer to you. Searching for content has never been the game. Now, as an agent, you got to put your opinion on the content you're sharing. What's your thought process? Because you're giving that market expertise based on the data that you're sharing with you. So that's just one example. Claude Cowork is a game changer.
And to that point, sorry to interrupt here, but you kind of just got me excited. There was a use case which we talked about in our community for agents, which I think would be really relevant for this conversation. You can now you can do it with Claude scheduled task. Previously, I was using Manus for this. So Claude and Manus are my two favorite
I love
tools.
Manus too. Yeah.
So Manus and Claude are my two favorite tools. I lean heavy on Claude, where I'm using Manus more than Claude is with anything on having to do with images, video, deck generating, and then the scheduled task feature with Manus is pretty rock solid. The challenge with Claude at the moment is that your computer does need to be on, and you got to have Claude open for it to run. So it's a bit limiting. They will fix that. Just be patient. Yeah. Manus, on the other hand, just goes ahead and does it. But the use case which I set up, which is really interesting if you're an agent, is running a scheduled task where, let's say in my case, we're market experts on multifamily apartment buildings in Los Angeles. So you would tell Claude scheduled task or Manus scheduled task every morning or week or whatever cadence you want to do. Every morning, scan the Los Angeles market for regulatory updates, for new sales, where cap rates are, anything that has to do with multifamily apartment buildings in Los Angeles. Okay. Then I want you to create a newsletter for me in this specific format.
Yeah.
And then I want you to take that and create a deck for me, right? Whatever, 5 to 10 slide deck. Okay. That shows up in your inbox, right? The only time spent on it is actually getting it set up. But from there, I mean, you set the cadence, whether it's daily or weekly. You're only in the mix for quality control at that point. You could even set it up where it actually emails your client list for you. I don't recommend doing that at the moment.
You gotta be.
So you're really just there for quality control and then actually hitting send on that. But easy, low-hanging fruit to set up.
No. And to your point, not just if you want to get some really good timely content for social, same thing. In sort of a deck, just have it create a artifact in Claude or whatever it is. I think I think those are some really good takeaways. I know we'll put a link to Jake's resources, including the school community, CRE Collective, all in the show notes, so you can kind of learn more about Jake as well. Before I don't want to lose track of that. So let me ask you this question, which is, what are the AI? We talked about Claude and Manus. I figured you're paying for those two. What are your top 3, 4 tools that Jake is paying for? Not experimenting. I mean, we experiment with a ton of stuff. That's a whole another episode in itself. But let's talk about your tried and true tools as of this recording that Jake pays for, AI tools.
Look, I won't lie to you. Fortunately, I'm in a position where I don't really have to pay for these tools, just because of what we have. So being transparent about that. But like I said, there's very few tools that I think, like real estate focus, that I think are really worthwhile. And that distinction I made about growing your business versus just making your life more convenient is a really, really important one. So
yeah,
I'm very thoughtful about that. Now, some of the tools which in my line of work, like delivering lots to home builders, there's a lot of land acquisition platforms that are out there. Traditionally, you'd have things like Land Vision, if you're familiar, which is a Lightbox product. They're a massive organization. They're a little bit slow in the whole AI race at the moment. They're just traditional prop tech. But in tier one of that category, where I would be interested in possibly investing time, resources, and energy into, would be at the top of that list is Prophetic. They are a land acquisitions platform, which is so unbelievable. I truly believe that you'd see exponential growth as a result of using their platform. Naturally, they're expensive because of that. But their data capabilities are unbelievable. I mean, we ultimately put together a 541 lot subdivision for a site that like you wouldn't think was really possible to put together. It was like so oddly shaped, and they had these wet plains and everything just going against it. And within the platform, you put this together, whereas traditionally you would hire an engineer and you'd spend $5,000 or $10,000, and it would take weeks to do. And so that exact example there, I can't tell you how many times we've been in a deal where we're going through due diligence and we're waiting for our engineer, and we have to submit our initial feasibility to the city, and it's back and forth in weeks at a time. And like that in itself just blows up deals. So by having Prophetic into the mix for that exact scenario, there's a handful of occasions where we most likely would have proceeded with deals if we had Prophetic. So Prophetic, a leader in that category. There's also acres.com. There's pillars.code. So those are really interesting platforms. I'm also really excited about the AI agents in Excel, which I know Claude and ChatGPT both have.
Yeah.
If you have Claude and you have ChatGPT and their Excel capabilities are working for you, that's totally fine. I will say that tools like Shortcut AI and Index AI are both AI agents that live in Excel. They are better at Claude and ChatGPT at the moment for Excel work. So if that's a huge priority for you, you live in Excel and you want the latest and greatest and the most out of what's possible with these AI agents in Excel, both Shortcut and Index are worth looking into. Index sort of went the enterprise route. So if you're a larger shop, it might make sense to explore with them. Shortcut went the consumer route. They have really bare bone subscription models. I think their most basic ones like $10 a month. They even have free credits for you to try. But they're interesting, Shortcut specifically, because when you're underwriting deals, let's just say with Claude and ChatGPT, if you gave it 10 prompts, you're most likely going to get 10 different outputs. And that's not really scalable. Okay. You need some sort of standardization, right? If you're presenting to your manager or your investment committee or whatever it might be, you're not just going to send them a bunch of different models, right? Like there's no standardization to it. So Shortcut has what's called skills, which I'm sure you're familiar with Claude skills, right? Claude doesn't even have Claude skills in Excel yet. So Shortcut having that, I think, is really important. And you could create a standardized output when you're doing initial underwriting or preparing a due diligence checklist or whatever it might be. And I think that's a really important concept today. So if you're looking for the latest and greatest in that category, it might be worthwhile to look into Shortcut and or Index. But if you do have Claude and you don't want to spend any more money on it, its capabilities are fantastic and you're okay there as well. So there's definitely some really interesting tools in this space. And look, we have a lot more.
Look, I think you've shared some really good places for commercial agents that are listening to this podcast can actually lean into, and not just commercial agents. If you work in Excel, to your point, that's productivity skill. And adding those Chrome plugins like Shortcut, AI, etc., I think are great ways to start. Any other AI guidance you can give people before I get to my final two questions, Jake?
Yeah, I think people try and AI everything, and it's a big mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, they try and sprint before they walk, and you're just not going to make any progress taking that approach. I assure you. I think you need to start with the basic and boring stuff, the repetitive administrative things you do day in, day out that could easily be automated. I think you also need to establish, what does success and progress really mean? Okay. And it needs to be measurable, right? Like if this task for, let's just say preparing a marketing flyer takes me 15 minutes, you need to understand that, right? Because as you work to automate that, you need to see clearly, okay, is AI actually going to make this more efficient for me or not? So that's a very loaded conversation. We could go on a tangent about that, but I think the short answer to that is really just start with the basic, boring, nuanced, but repetitive and critical functions you do day in, day out. Set up what success means if you were to automate that for you, and just track that progress, but start there. You're not going to automate your whole business. Okay. It's a huge mistake. AI everything is a huge mistake. So it starts with the boring stuff, unfortunately.
No, great piece of advice. And one of the things I talk about, which is very consistent with what you said, was where do you begin with AI? Find, if you say that most things we do are a series of tasks, some are strategic, but operationally, like what are repetitive tasks? What are time consuming tasks? What are energy draining tasks that you know you need to do that you don't love doing? And data heavy. Pick areas in this that take a lot of time. To your point, measure it. If it took you 30 minutes to do it, and if it's taking you 5 over a month, how many times have you done this? So do measurement. And some of the best use cases of AI are not sexy. They just shave time off your schedule so you can actually do more strategic stuff, business growth, revenue generation stuff that you talked about. So that's one of my two questions I was going to ask all my guests. Where would you have people start? But the other piece I want to ask you is, you've been in real estate how long now? I know you're third generation, but how long you've been sort of in real estate yourself?
About 9 years. Well, 9 years like into the weeds, but throughout college and being around the family, call it
long
10.
time.
Yeah.
So if you were to give one piece of advice, and that could be AI or anything, literally in business to succeed, knowing what you know, what would be your advice to your younger self if you had to redo your career again?
Yeah. Well, look, I think as of this recording, to your point,
exactly.
we're living in pretty crazy times.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we saw the jobs numbers this morning. If you haven't, they're pretty ugly. I'm not sure if that's a result of AI or not, but we're heading into these uncharted waters. This weird time, arguably the most exciting time, the most opportunity. Things can be done. You can just do things. I think for anyone just getting started in the business, you need to be the guy, the AI guy, right? You want people coming to you asking you, hey, what does this mean? How could I use AI for this, right? Because as we're heading into this world, who knows if there's going to be mass replacement, like that article you mentioned where 80 million people saw it, or if 50% of white collar jobs are going away. I don't know. Okay. Yeah. But I think if you could set yourself up to be the guy or the girl, but the AI guy or girl in today's world, it's really important. You want to be the person where managers, executives, it doesn't matter, come to and ask questions. Hey, how could we use AI for this? Or how could we use AI for that? So that's my advice to anyone. I speak to a lot of students, speak to a lot of younger professionals, and anytime they ask me like, what should I be doing right now? My answer is just be the guy, the AI guy.
AI guy, that's very good advice in the times we're living in for sure, Jake. And, it's like sort of taking your every spare time resource you have to dig in, to learn, to implement, to learn. And I've gone through the only reason Jake and I are like sort of talking AI is we've just had way too many light bulb moments with AI. So you just start your journey, and this time next year, as you listen to our episodes, you should be in a much better place to be that AI resource that people lean on. So great piece of advice. Last question I have for you is, are you a book or a podcast person, Jake?
I won't lie to you. I can probably count on one hand how many books I've read in my entire life. Embarrassing to say.
No, it's all good.
My wife, on the other hand, read 47 books last year, so she kind of levels me out. But definitely a podcast guy.
Okay.
And audiobooks. I will do
okay,
audiobooks.
No, audiobooks count for books. I mean, it's just the way you're consuming information.
Okay.
So
fine.
Let me give you this. The question is there a book or a podcast that has influenced you the most compared to the others that you would recommend our podcast audience listen to or read?
For business specifically?
Anything in life, literally for you.
Well, look, I won't lie. I haven't read many audiobooks, but the one that does come to me, I'm Jewish, and it's called The Rebbe. I'm actually listening to it for the third time now. One of the most influential figures in all of Jewish history, but incredible book. I love it. It speaks volumes. It's very near and dear to me. So I recommend that, but don't want to get religious or anything. I've only read a handful of books, and that's my favorite. I'm trying to just think on the podcast side of things. I mean, look, I listen to Joe Rogan's podcast as well. I think it's interesting, and a lot of those conversations I think are really interesting. But man, sometimes I just, when I'm driving, I just like to sit in silence and listen to my own thoughts. As weird as that sounds, I'm kind of weird in that sense, but for me, it works.
No, you're not weird. You know that we live in a world, Jake, and you bring up a good point. We live in a world where we're always listening to other people. Opinions, right? Sometimes you need white space to process your own. So I think like I find myself like AirPods Max, walking around listening. Sometimes you just need to take a walk with nothing and kind of process the thoughts of all the stuff that you gather. So that's a great piece of advice. So this has been fun, man. I appreciate you. I'm glad that we connected. And we'll put all the links to all the tools and resources that Jake shared in the show notes. And if you're a commercial agent listening to this podcast, you owe it to yourself to check out CRE Collective that Jake's putting together. And they're digesting all of the tools, all the information, so you can actually apply and not have to spend the time to actually do it on your own. So thank you for your service, and hopefully we'll meet in real life real soon.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jake. If you found value in the show, follow it so you're notified every Wednesday when new episodes drop. Share it with someone in the industry you care for, and leave us a review as it helps us reach more real estate professionals like you.